Order. Members, the House sitting is resumed. The House, for members' edification, is in committee on the State Sector Management Bill.
No.
And the question is that Part 3 stand part. At the break, Gareth Hughes was speaking and he has 1 minute remaining if he so wishes to use it. He does not. I call Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. Back to Part 3. And when I was speaking earlier on, I guess I was speaking more generally there about the concern we had at a philosophical level about what is happening in terms of Part 3, that the independence and the ability of the archivists to perform their core constitutional role is undermined by Part 3 of this bill. I want to now refer to some of the specific elements of Part 3. And actually, firstly, I want to refer to a change that's actually been made by the committee to Part 3. And this is around the question of Archives New Zealand continuing to exist in some form or name. And essentially, what the bill did was remove all references to Archives New Zealand. Because Archives New Zealand, as we know it, as a government entity, is not going to exist. But Archives New Zealand is still the repository for documents, and this was something that was going to continue, but it was raised by a number of submitters around the whole question of ownership and control of documents, and the concern people had that as the bill was drafted, that would be the department that would have that ownership and control of those documents rather than Archives New Zealand. And clearly that was something that concerned a lot of submitters, was raised by a large number of people, and I'm pleased to be able to say that the committee was able to make a change there so that a large number of clauses are actually now being changed so that the phrase Archives New Zealand is included. And that's important because it goes to the heart of the matter of ensuring that there is an independent archive. And the absence of that and the handing over of effectively control or ownership of documents to the Department of Internal Affairs raises all of those concerns again, that it is not the archives that is now in control of these important records, but a government department in which the archives have been subsumed. So in that small matter, Mr Chair, we were able to achieve a change in the committee, but it doesn't take away from the other matters that we've traversed. A number of submitters raised important concerns about the way in which the Chief Archivist is appointed and how their ability to be independent is maintained. And the critical change that was made was that the Chief Archivist is now, under this bill, independent in exercising their professional judgment. Under the previous legislation, they were independent in discharging their duties and functions. So we now have a difference, Mr Speaker, a downgrading, so that rather than actually being responsible for all of their activities and having independence in all of their activities, it is merely in the exercise of their professional judgment. Now, we clarified with the officials that this really was about ensuring that the Chief Executive of the Department of Internal Affairs' authority remained totally unchallenged. But that's the nub of the problem, Mr Chair, is that we need in this situation to have a Chief Archivist who can challenge the authority of the Chief Executive of the Department of Internal Affairs where that is necessary. So that change, that alteration in terms of the description of how the Chief Archivist is independent is a critical change, one raised by a large number of submitters, and one that we were not able to resolve satisfactorily for us in the committee. And in one of my typescript amendments, Mr Chair, we are attempting to rectify that situation, and I would encourage the government to ensure that is passed. The relationship between the Chief Executive and the Chief Archivist has been obviously is at the heart of that matter, and again has not been dealt with adequately in the bill. Because of the structure of the State Sector Act, the Chief Executive is the employer, and the Chief Archivist is subsumed in them. And then we had the release of the structural document of the Department of Internal Affairs, which reconfirmed this and showed us that the Chief Archivist was a third team manager outside the executive leadership team, Mr Chair, and that I think is a very important point, that the Chief Executive and the managers of Department of Internal Affairs who will set the strategic direction for the Department of Internal Affairs will not include the Chief Archivist. And we on this side of the House find that simply unacceptable for such a significant constitutional organisation. So we would like to see that change, and again there are SOPs to deal with that. Again, similar to the National Library, the whole question of reporting is now completely changed. Reporting will be done via the Department of Internal Affairs, via the Chief Executive, and the Department of Internal Affairs reports. And that is not acceptable, Mr. Chair.
Chadwick.